as your company developed, did you have certain focuses as far as, I think you've mentioned townhouses, and then how did you grow into the multifamily, and what does that look like now? Are you looking for 10-unit buildings, 100-unit buildings, or what is your focus now?
Sure, that's a great question. In 2011, there was a little bit of almost an aberration in the market. Yes, things had trended downward significantly, but townhomes, where there were still healthy associations, I'll always remember our first townhome we bought. It's 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's about 1,800 square feet, and we bought that home for $80,000, and that place rents now for close to $1,500 a month, and so the values were totally out of sync with what you could rent them for. And so that's what we first focused on. And we saw that market hold until about 2014. That's where you saw this townhome market start to come back, frankly, as people stopped defaulting on their own mortgages. So banks would lend more aggressively, and then the value, so it didn't make sense to rent them. I think the last townhome we purchased was actually maybe in the spring of 17. And then we did what a lot of people do. We moved up to duplexes and fourplexes. And some of those have been wonderful investments for us. I would also say that through that process, it's also been where we've learned some of our most valuable lessons. Around here in the Twin Cities, we have duplexes that were built turn of the century, and I don't mean 2000, I mean 1900. And so as we're getting started, we're so green, we're like, oh yeah, we can make any of these properties work. Well, there are a lot more things that are going to break in a duplex that was built in 1900 than in a townhome that was built in 1993. So we had to take some of those lumps along the way. We've held on to a few of those, but then as I mentioned earlier, in about 2015, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but we had no idea these types of apartment investments that you'll hear about, different syndications, different joint ventures, I had no idea that those even existed. So the first one that was brought to us, we're like, oh my gosh, yeah, this looks wonderful. Thank you for including us. We'd love to do this. And we purchased into a portfolio of 10 to, there was a failed condo conversion in there of 32 out of 48 units that we bought into. And then that same syndicator brought another building to us about 10 months later. It was a 64 unit where a widow had owned it. Not when we were actually part of the leadership team, where we were considered part of the sponsors there because we were helping to raise a significant amount of money. But a widow had inherited this 64 unit building, and she was keeping half the units vacant for storage. So our eyes just became transformed by what we were seeing in these returns. And then we like property management a lot. One, because we believe it's the most successful, it's the most important ingredient for to plug the podcast here, for maximizing your property's value. But then it also allows you to pay yourself along the way. So we've invested in some very large deals. We've been a part of the management team and general partnership for deals upwards of 171 units here in the Twin Cities. We're really focused on, I would say, 20 to 40 units. We like the 1960s, 1970s product because we think there's a stable tenant base that lives there. We've learned the repairs that come up. People in property management will joke about this. You like the fact that they're stacked. So when there is inevitably a leak, the units, it's easy to locate. They're easy to turn. And you'll also get a lot of mom and pop owners in that space as well. So it's always been hard to find good deals. It's especially hard now, but the major players, they don't go below anything $10 million. And so if you can find something in that kind of $3 to $5 million price range, you can usually find a deal.
Yep. Want to hear more on this topic? Click the link below for the full episode of Maximizing Your Property Value.